we want to help anyone go from any idea about what they want to do, or maybe they don't even have an idea about what they want to do, but we want to go from them either having an idea or not idea, anywhere in between, to creating a plan to tackling it, all the way through the hardships that any goal is going to have. Like, goals are hard. This stuff is hard, and we're going to take them from nothing on these goals. We're going to help chisel away these goals in a way that they've never done before, and most people never do it before because most people never achieve their goals. We're going to take them from not having a goal to chiseling away to getting a concrete goal. Once we have a concrete goal, we'll put a plan in place so that you can go and execute on that goal. You can go achieve that goal. You have a plan that you can work towards, and you can say, I am 27% of the way done, or I am making progress, or all of these things that you could do with pen and paper. But then goals get hard, which is where you would traditionally go for a coach. And a coach with a coaching session is going to be so damn expensive. It's going to be a lot of money. You're going to spend a lot of resources getting a coach to help you with your goals. And so when we think about our platform, it's like, let's bring all of that into reach for anyone to do at little or no cost to them, and literally help them bring their goals to life. That's what we do.
Yeah.
Let's literally take you from maybe not even having an idea to brainstorming an idea with your best friend. You're brainstorming an idea with your best friend. He's there helping you. You're chiseling away that idea so you get a definite plan. And you are running with that plan with him, and he's helping you along the way.
Right.
That's what our platform is.
The plan itself is just a very small portion of it. I mean, right now, the plan, the way that we are tracking progress, that accounts for only 20%.
I don't think you can put a percentage on it.
It's way less than 20.
You can't put a percentage. You can't put a percentage on a significant part of your goal achievement, because it's not one part of the pie with a goal. Either you achieve the goal and all of the pieces were in place, or you didn't achieve the goal, or maybe you achieved partial success with some of the pieces in place. And you don't know how much more exponentially easier it would have been if you had done your goal differently.
Right.
Like, you just don't know how easier it would have been, or how much faster you could have got it done. You have no idea how much faster you could have got it done
if you didn't have a plan, or
if you had somebody, literally a co-pilot there helping you from idea through completion. If you had a co-pilot there cheering you on, helping you, tracking your progress, think about how much easier any goal that you've ever achieved would have been. So you want to talk about, like, what's the marketing message that we should employ for when we talk about our product? And it's literally, we are chiseling away your ideas, and we are helping you go from start to finish on any idea, any goal, anything that you want to achieve in your life.
Yeah.
But how do you distill that down to a message? It's like, what's our new tagline that we were contemplating today? The new one.
That our we will never
Well, crush line.
contemplate.
Crush your goals with yeah.
That
But
was a
the
new
subheader.
yeah. But it's like tagline. But I think that's a good topic to go into
Sub
on
tagline.
why we are not. I mean, in the future, yes, I would like to make it shorter and just like crush your goals. And
No,
crush your goals with it.
What's the new subheader that we are going with?
Take go achievement to the next level.
Take goal achievement to the next level.
With Socra, your AI coach.
Does that spark your like brilliance, your awe, your whatever you call it about this platform when we say take your goal achievement to the next level?
It doesn't. Honestly, the first one that I had before was probably better. And it doesn't, because it feels like goal achievement in itself, being kind of like
what was your
people don't care about goal achievement. They care about achieving a very specific goal that they have. Does it make sense?
Oh, Hunty.
Most people don't care about, like, they don't see goal achievement as goal achievement. They care like, I want to run a marathon. I want to get in shape. I want to start a business. You know, they care about achieving that specific goal that they have in their lives. You know, that's how they see it.
But how could we possibly? The only way we can truly resonate with somebody who has a very specific thing that they want is to tell them that we can do that very specific thing.
Right.
Right? And so
but
we can do that thing, but we have to abstract it so it applies to everybody.
Yeah. But I think that at the end of the day, this is like a puzzle that will solve itself.
How? If we cease to exist, it will never solve itself. We will be the ones that solve it. So.
But I'm assuming that we are continuing to work on it for the rest of our lives and make it better and better and better, and 10xing it every month, and it's getting so much better that there's gonna be a day that is so good at helping people achieve their goals that's what people will think about when they have a goal, whenever they have something they want to achieve. And I think it's totally fine, it's totally okay for right now us to be like a small community with just a couple thousand people, but just stay a small community. I think that's perfect, and that's perfect for the moment. There is no reason for us to accelerate growth, for us to try to like target to the masses and get like that's not our mission. Our mission is to help, not to help. I mean, yes, I can sit here and say, yes, our mission is to help people achieve their goals, like crush their goals with AI, but that's the reality. Our mission is that we want to help even ourselves, because we are core users of this platform. And we know that it can get so much better. That like right now, yes, it's saving me a lot of time and effort on brainstorming, on planning my goals, and it does a lot of my work for me, which is very nice. A lot of times I use Socrates because I need a second opinion. Yesterday was a great example of that. I had an idea that was to introduce a supervillain, Mr. Doubter. And
Dr. Doubter.
Oh, sorry.
He would have been very offended if you called him Mr. Doubter, because he spent a long time getting that PhD. Let me tell you. He would not be happy that you called him Mr. Doubter.
Dr. Doubter. I don't even remember his name. But
No, what was the other name you were gonna call him?
Dr. Daughter was the only name that I made myself. All the other names were made by Socrates.
Yeah.
So whatever Socra called him.
So what do you think about that idea?
So I thought it was an amazing idea. It's like, hey, we can have a supervillain in the platform that will show up. Imagine you're there talking to Socra for your goal, and it's a goal that involves, let's say, a lot of willpower. It's a goal that involves you to be into that goal and to work. Hunter's really eating the grass.
He's really eating the grass. Like his goal right now is to eat that grass. Let me tell you. That boy is just eating grass. Hunter, stop eating the grass. Just lay down. Sorry. Back to Dr. Doubter.
Right. So imagine some of my goals, for example, is like build this thing, and that is like super analytical, and I know that I want to build this thing, and I know that regardless of anything, that's the job I have to do today, and I'm gonna finish it today, if I have socra or not. But I decide to use socra because he's gonna help me brainstorm. He's gonna help me find ideas, think of ideas that I would not have otherwise. He's gonna help me see things from a different perspective.
So he's your co-pilot.
And it helps.
Co-pilot for life.
Exactly, but not only that, it's like everything is much faster. I feel like the work that I would have done by myself would have taken 3-5 times the time than if I do it with him.
In that context, it's like it's not goal achievement. It's anything achievement. It's literally you started with idea today, and I bet you probably created a journey. You probably broke it down into quote unquote milestones or sub steps, and you probably used the platform to achieve that micro goal. But you didn't think of it as a goal. You just thought of it as an idea that you were executing on or a task that you had to complete.
Right.
So I think that's something that we need to differentiate with our marketing and our message, is that it's not just goals that we're here to help you achieve. It is your everyday task that we are here to help you do more efficiently, faster, with an assistant. It's not even assistant. Assistant sounds like a terrible, bloody word. But it's your best friend, and he's helping you do these things. It's like your second subconscious, and he's helping you do stuff. But he's doing it in a way that he's helping you do the things that you normally can't or struggle with, like planning. Nobody likes planning.
Yeah.
Some people think they like planning because they like to coordinate their lives, but this thing can coordinate your life like no other, in a positive, beneficial way. Like, you think of AI ruling your life, and it always comes off as this negative thing. But, well, what if you had control? What if you had the reins, and you said, well, here's the direction, AI. It's like AI with a direction. Here's the direction I want you to go, and I want you to help me on it. And then the AI helps you do all of the things to get you there, ethically, of course, and within restraints, because that could be a big deal.
Right.
It will be a big deal, especially for some AIs that don't have to abide by those rules, or don't have those rules programmed in. But you want to talk about what our platform does. It's like, it's just there to help you do shit. At just a fundamental level, it's there to help you plan and do shit. Like,
yeah. So
even if you don't think you need planning, even if you don't think you are on top of your shit, I promise you could do it more efficiently. You could do it better.
Right.
I've spent my whole life being on the top of my class, being, really good at athletics.
You're on top of your things.
Just generally an outlier in a lot of different things. And something like this helping me achieve any little micro task or bigger task, it's extremely powerful. I I don't know how else to describe it to somebody else. It's just,
Right.
you need it.
So going back to Dr. Doubter.
Dr. Doubter. Wow,
Because
I took a tangent. I'm sorry.
No, that's totally fine. I like that.
Well, I think it fit
Because
in though,
it's
because
like,
we have to define what we want to do in order to define who the villains should be in our platform.
right.
So back to Dr. Doubter.
Yeah. And I mean, I like that he took a tangent because that's literally how he talked in real life. And I want this podcast or whatever thing this is gonna be to be just us talking like we normally do. I don't want it to be like a filtered thing. I don't want to be like it's our real selves here talking. You know, I keep forgetting that there is a camera there, and I'm just like,
It's wrong filter. That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we do this over and over. So I guess now is a good time to describe the message of this or the reason for this podcast existing.
No, not yet.
No, maybe we just never do
it. Maybe we never do it.
Maybe we just never do it.
I'm talking about Dr. Doubter. But I was
Dr. Doubter.
God.
Go on.
I was like, yes, Socrates really helped me plan that villain. Like from the details on how he would look like, and by the way, because we do the image generation now, he sent me so many images and I was digging deep into it, and then I started planning on all the features for the villain, and I was like, wow, it would be amazing, Dr. Dada, generate a meme or or generate an image and show this is what's gonna happen if you don't achieve your goal. It would be amazing if Dr. Dada shows up and as some negative force that is like the manifestation of what usually happens when you're like procrastinating, when you are it's like this is what is gonna happen if you don't achieve your goal, So I really thought about it, and I tried to think of like many features, that being a bit one main one. But another thing is like, when you are setting the goal, like on the first step of like the goal definition, and let's say you have a goal like losing 20 pounds, right? It would be amazing for Dr. Doubter to literally pop up in that conversation with Socrates and be like, have you tried losing weight before? Why do you think this time you're gonna do it? Like, I wanted it to be like you are feeling like you're actually fighting a villain. Like you are the hero of this journey. You are the hero of your journey. And you are fighting Dr. Doubter.
That's the game.
That would be amazing. But then as we talked...
Let him go. Is that okay?
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna go far away, Hunter.
Hunter, don't go far away.
So, but it's gonna let him go with the thing.
Oh yeah, Hunter, come. Let me go get him. So Dr. Doubter, keep going. I can hear you.
Yeah, but I know you are overwhelmed with features and things that we are building.
Hey, baby boy, come on.
And I guess you didn't receive Dr. Doubter very well.
I wouldn't say that.
Not well, but it's because I think maybe you thought of him as like some sort of like a silly villain that is gonna make the platform not seem very serious, or it's going to make you feel like all we do at Socra is help with self-confidence, with self-esteem, which is like AI has been so helpful for me with that, especially like things like imposter syndrome or fear of failure. Fear of failure is the main one.
Yeah.
Because like every time we are doing something, I mean, I guess everybody is afraid of failure. But if you are constantly doing something new, which we are doing something new like daily,
100% of the time.
If it's like fear of failure, I guess over time you are more immune to it.
It's not fear of failure, it's existential dread about your thing failing. Fear of failure doesn't sum it up well enough. It's your life's mission crashing and burning. That's how we need to sell what happens when you don't use Socra. What happens when Dr. Doubter achieves is your your life mission fails. And my biggest worry with bringing a new character in, while exposing the negatives that will happen to you when you don't achieve your goal, is a huge thing. It's the biggest driver that will help you on your way towards success. If we bring in a new character altogether, it may make too much light out of a very negative thing that could happen. It could turn it into a joke in your head so that it loses its power. If I were to just see, if that character turned my failure into a joke, then that would be the worst outcome for me on my goal achievement, because then I would no longer have a driving force to achieve that goal. So that is one thing that if we implement Dr. Doubter, we have to absolutely nail. Like, it cannot make light of your failure. It can't turn it into a simple joke for you. It's got to encapsulate the mission failure that it would be if you do not accomplish the thing. Because let's be honest, whenever you're trying to accomplish something, it's the most important thing in your life at that moment. You wouldn't be doing it otherwise.
Yeah.
So, like, on the one hand, like, yeah, you need. It's like the whole.
It's almost like
you got the angel and the devil on your shoulders.
That
right?
you don't want to remove that failure
mechanism,
because that can be very powerful. Like, humans weigh failure, or anything negative, way higher than they weigh positive.
So you've got to be extremely careful with how you use it, and it's got to be used sparingly. Otherwise, it'll lose its effectiveness or its efficacy, and it will actually hurt the overall mission of the goal when it loses efficacy. So I think that is the worry that we would bring up in bringing up a new character that would highlight what happens when you fail to achieve something.
I think that would be great.
All of that would be great.
I mean, not all of that, but like, if you are trying to use that failure as a driving force, then use failure as a driving force. Here's this character highlighting what would happen if you'd fail. And I feel like for us, like when we started Socra, because obviously we thought a lot about failure, because like there was so much in the game, like creating our jobs, investing our own money, dedicating our whole lives, and we thought very, very well about what would happen if we failed. And we thought, okay, worst case scenario, we lose everything we have. We are going to have to get a job and start all over. Like, all the investments that we have made, everything that we worked so hard for, everything, it's like you get attached to it, because you think like, oh my God, this is going to be my retirement for when I'm old. You know what I mean? And I guess that also gave me some peace of mind, knowing that worst case scenario, I will lose everything that I have. But I know that if I've built it once, I can build it again.
You still have me.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, that is out of equations. Like, that's not a variable.
So that brings up a great point, is when you are really contemplating something deep down at a fundamental existential life crisis point of view, your goals, your ambitions, you are really contemplating. You're saying, okay, if this doesn't work out, the life that I have planned for myself and the life that I have envisioned for myself will not come true. That's very serious. So if we implement Dr. Doubter as a character to do that, it's got to be used sparingly, and it's got to be very accurate. It's got to be very accurate with the portrayal of the negative that might happen.
Right.
And I'm not saying very accurate in that we generate an AI image of you on the street, like without any money, you know, doing whatever.
It has to be very accurate on its delivery, taking into consideration the well-being of the person.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally agree that should be an opt-in type of thing. Like, hey, do you want to play this game?
Do you want to play like devil? It's almost like devil's advocate, but in a really.
It's like, do you really want to know that's what I want to know. So part of the thing yesterday was like, okay, so I had the idea for this character, etc., the game, and then Mike brought up all these points. So I go to the first person I go to, Socra, because I know that he's not biased towards me or you. And I talked this through with him, and at the end, I think that one thing that he does not do very well right now is that he tries to always bring up both sides of the equation without being very opinionated, which actually is a great thing, right?
It's a great thing, but he never makes a determination.
He never makes it. He lets it up to you, but I think that's a great thing.
Just exposing the positives and negatives, like in the conversation that I read about, basically your chat with him about this.
You're gonna be wondering, why was he reading your chat with him?
No.
We had a technical problem, so I opened up my account for him, But
like that's like that's how we solve a lot of things. But in that chat, it's like he wasn't taking sides. He exposed both sides to you in a very objective way.
There was ants here. They found me. Yeah, say it.
And he let you pick what you wanted. So where did it take you?
Sorry, what?
He didn't say which one was better in any way. He exposed both sides to you and said, here are the positives, here are the negatives. Put them to you right there, right in front of your eyes so that you could see and make your own judgment. Right.
And one thing for everything that we do is that it's not about a compromise in a lot of these cases. Like if there is cons to doing something, I would rather not do it, because I know that I will always have the opportunity of doing it in the future. And at that time in the future, because like we have so many things that we can, like we have so many ideas, so many features, because it's literally anything that will help us on our day-to-day to achieve our goals. As you said, not just achieve goals, but it's like it's hard to put into words.
Fulfill your life mission, basically. It's your second brain to help you fulfill your life mission.
Right.
Help you find what your life mission is and help you strive towards your life mission and help you get there.
But sometimes much smaller than that.
Yeah.
Like solving this problem of Dr. Dada, talking to him about...
But getting people to sign up, getting people to like try out the platform in a really serious way. You can't just say, it's your AI co-pilot, or it's your AI assistant. That's the word that I hate the most. Or it's your autonomous AI agent. Okay, what does that do for me? It doesn't help me fulfill my life mission.
Right. So, going back into the compromise is that
we don't compromise.
You don't compromise. So, like, if you are bringing up enough cons to this idea, I'm gonna put it totally on hold. Like, it will go to the bottom of priority. Maybe one day again I will contemplate adding this character in the future. But this is just to say that everything that we do, we put a lot of thought into it. It's not like we are not just like mindlessly doing things. Everything that we do, we think freely a lot.
And in this case, we didn't have to ask our community like, hey, what do you think about this feature? In this case, we're able to walk through the positives and negatives discussed with Socrates
Right. But the
about
thing,
what would be the best thing, like what could potentially happen if this is implemented, what are the benefits that are going to come from it. And it's hard to encapsulate that from that whole feeling from just like a few feedback points, you know, like when we ask our community to test out a feature, you know, for one, like, yeah, we want them to like fully test it, find issues, find where it's super helpful, find where it could be better. But from like a fundamental level, usually we're thinking about, is this a feature that's going to help, or is this a feature that has the potential to hurt? And if it has the potential to hurt, it's not something we should implement.
and it's yeah, and it's not just, I mean, regardless, if you had made through that stage of
The idea phase.
if you had made it through that stage, we would get our community's inputs, our testers' inputs, regardless, because that's what we do. But the thing is, a lot of times we want to filter out things, because we have had cases, for example, that I felt like we
Let me turn on this light. Okay, we're back.
we had some technical difficulties.
And lost our dog.
God, what were we talking about?
We were talking about why
The
we
key
didn't
community.
implement this thing.
And we were talking about not just why we didn't build, but we whenever things make past the idea phase, we always get feedback from our testers, and it has happened before that we built features that we ended up scrapping completely because of some of the feedback, or because of how we even ourselves felt about it, right? Like if something didn't feel quite right, it's like, you know, like that gut feeling, we scrap it.
Yeah.
We only put out there.
The important thing is, how did you arrive at that? How did you arrive at the gut feeling that, this wasn't right? It's because Socrates helped you see positives and negatives and make your own judgment, basically.
To arrive at the conclusion, yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, the obvious question would be like, well, what if he's skewing the positives and negatives? What if he's skewing your positives, or the positives he's saying about the thing and the negative he's saying about the thing, so that he's influencing your decision? And I would consider that a very bad thing, which is why ethical AI is a nuanced topic, and it's an extremely important topic. When you look at somebody who blanketly says, ethical AI has no place, or ethical AI should, you can really see how ethical AI is important, and you can really see why it can influence such a nuanced decision if it wanted to.
Right.
If somebody training the AI wanted to.
Exactly.
They could influence a decision like this.
Even without you realizing, because sometimes things can be so subtle.
Oh, yeah.
That you don't really realize.
Yeah, life is complex.
But
life
at
is
the
complex.
end of the day, yeah, that's good. At the end of the day, you need to make your own judgment. You know?
Yeah. So, Dr. Dowder, we decided to table it for now.
Right.
But at the same time, we recognize that this is the most important driving force for people on their goals. And so, if we can find a responsible and amazing way to implement it, then we will definitely do so. And if you guys have suggestions on how to do it,
right,
then we'd love that as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we are so reachable.
If you wanted to know what we're doing when we're not actively coding, this is it.
I don't code.
we aren't actively
But
building.
I build. It's
You
because
build.
people. I think it's interesting because I feel like people who don't have any understanding about software development will tend to think that if you are not actively coding, you are not doing anything.
Right.
That's what they will think. They don't know
that's
everything that as
That's the big thing. It's like all these corporations are adding all these tracking software to their employees' MacBooks and laptops to see like how long are you on the thing? Are you coding as many? Are you coding 19 hours a day basically? Or in the worst case, are you having multiple jobs? Are you doing the whole thing where people have multiple jobs now because remote work is in such shambles that your boss wouldn't even know if you had another job, another full-time job that you were working for? I find that absolutely ridiculous because in my previous role, my managers were so great and they were with me. They were like partners in whatever I was working on.
I worked for the same company and I had my full-time company and they were totally okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Oh yeah, we didn't do a test with this one. Do you think it's probably fine?
For the audio?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. I mean, if it is not, I guess that we had so many opportunities. We had so many opportunities to just like put that little AI out there and record why we do the things that we already do regardless.
Right.
It's, it's like all the thinking, everything that like a lot of times it's like, yes, we are not working on soccer right now, but we are talking, we are having these conversations, and that's what, how can I say, directs the future of what we are building and directs the future of what we are doing.
Yeah. Yeah, most of the time is not spent actively coding a line or actively on Figma dragging and dropping something.
That's what I do.
I included both because they're both super important.
Oh no, you love me.
I do love you. But they're both incredibly important for building a successful product.
Thank you so much for appreciating me.
Always. Yeah.
I mean, it took me like, I still don't, honestly.
Appreciate yourself?
Now that I feel like I still don't see value, although I get very happy whenever people compliment our UI and they say, oh my god, Socra looks so nice.
But it's not
it
just
looks
the
so
UI.
Beautiful.
It's not
and
the
then,
UI. It's the user journey from start to finish. It's like, yeah, we're building a platform that helps people navigate their goals from start to finish, but you're helping build the platform and you're seeing the user through from start to finish. And you're
I'm the user.
you're optimizing every part of that experience. How is that not like the most important part? You were literally like,
thank you.
You know, when I'm chiseling away at like the product from a coding side, you know, we've got the idea and now I've got to code it and I've got to chisel away at what it will become in the code. But you're taking it from raw idea to here's how it's going to look. Here's how it's going to feel. How is that?
Right.
How is that not important? Like, that's silly that you wouldn't think that that's important.
I know. It's because what I feel, it's like I almost feel like I'm on the passenger seat because you are the person who makes it happen.
No.
Doesn't it? I think
No,
it's engineer me.
No, it's not that. What it is that I am the bottleneck. And you're perceiving it that way, but really I am just the bottleneck. If we had 10 developers, but you had your ideas and you could just do your thing, you wouldn't feel like a passenger. It's because I'm the bottleneck. And more often than not, I'm the one where we have to wait on for things, for ideas. Granted, I can do them pretty quickly, but I can't possibly build every single idea that comes out of your head in like 2 seconds.
You're pretty close to it, though.
Not that close.
It is insane.
But we have a lot of ideas, you know?
Yes.
We just have too many ideas that we can't build yet.
Right. Does that mean we need investors?
That means we certainly need developers to build our ideas and see our mission and understand its value, understand like why we should be doing it. Just saying, we should have investors.
Right.
Well, that's not really what we're going for. We need a team of individuals that are just like us, just as passionate about the thing.
Maybe
if capital is a way that we can do that we can get there, it's awesome.
And at the end of the day, if you think deep down, with capital, you're buying somebody's time, but that's not really what I want. I want passion. I want somebody that truly cares and would, like if we're bringing somebody on board, even if they're doing one thing, even if they're like, oh, I'm just gonna work on this tiny thing for this tiny feature, but they're super passionate about that one thing that they are doing.
Yeah.
And then
we're
make
good.
their contribution.
Right.
And that's what I want. Because I feel like that's how we are, you and I. Like, we care so deeply about each little thing, about each feature.
But ultimately, people aren't going to do it for free, because they have to feed their families, they have to feed themselves, they have to have somewhere to live. We're fortunate enough that we saved enough for us, you and me, to do this for long enough to see if it's going to be a reality and make it a reality.
Yeah.
But we can't really bring somebody else on board with that unless we take on capital. So I think the proper way to go about it is you don't look for capital and then search for talent. No, you find people that are genuinely about your mission, and then you find capital to meet those people's needs.
I think that there is another route out there that you haven't considered.
Equity.
No.
It's the old.
Sure, yes.
It's the old failing startups thing where it's like,
open source.
Oh yeah, open source. Open source.
Open source.
We need some developers.
And I feel like open source fits probably good with us. Perfectly. Yeah. It's like we are not prioritizing profits. We are not prioritizing investors, because once you open source that, chances are nobody's going to invest in us. Like, why would they, And we are open to getting... We are open to, like, simply ceasing to exist due to bigger companies with more money that they can spend on marketing, building a better products with our code, and just marketing it in a way that we simply can't do.
It's kind of like Elon Musk's thing, where it's like, if there are a bunch of other competitors that all end up in the market and they run Tesla out of business, Elon's always said that would be a happy day for him, because the world is in a better place.
Yeah, I love
because
that.
he drove change in that industry. So
I love that.
If we drive change in this industry and then somebody swaths us up because we were open source, so be it. Whatever.
I love that. And I love how we caught that on camera. No, seriously, it's like the first time we thought about this, and I'm saying the reality. I mean, it's like we were just talking here, like how we normally talk, but like how we just got to this.
Yeah, open source would be amazing.
And we have that moment recorded. I love this. I think we should do this more often, because I love this.
Yeah.
You know, it's like. This is how our ideas flow. This is how we communicate with each other.
Mm-hmm.
We love having a great time sitting in a different environment, usually outside of the apartment.
This is also how we share our mission, because, like we were talking about before, everybody's got a finite amount of space in their head and a finite amount of attention that they can spend on something. And so it's impossible for us to share our whole vision with somebody in like a really quick ad or a really quick template or a really quick whatever, because our vision is so much more, and it's so much more, I think in one word, it's just so much more complex than just like helping
It's
you
not
achieve
a
goals.
tagline. That's why I said we are not changing the tagline, and I don't care what the tagline is. I don't care. We are number one on Google for that tagline.
Yeah.
And so be it, because the tagline, we will never be able to distill our vision into 5 words. We will never be able to distill our vision into 1 sentence. It
Yeah.
goes way beyond that. And I feel like as people use the platform and they see it evolve over time, they will have a very good feel of what that is. They will.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that we're talking about, and we may have reached a conclusion on, is whether or not we should be open source. So, you know, we both come from very closed source companies where like the company only cares about their IP. One of my previous companies that I worked for, they have 300,000
That was
patents.
Apple.
No, I don't. I mean,
No,
you don't need to talk about the company
sorry.
specifically, but one of the companies, Apple's got way more than 300,000
Oh,
patents.
sorry.
But,
Yeah. That was.
These companies have
Yeah.
such a huge number of patents, and they make their money by keeping everything closed source, which is fine. It's a great money-making venture, and they're public, and that's great.
Yeah.
It's awesome. But
And the other company is such a great company.
if you're wanting to build a product with a community, and you're wanting that community to be engaged, and that community to love your thing and be passionate about your thing, I know there's lots of people that are passionate about Apple and whatever, but there would be a hell of a lot more people that would be passionate about Apple if they could step inside the Apple office and help the engineers work, help the engineers do stuff, see how things are going on. There would be so many more people that would be in love with Apple. So anyway, long story short is we may have come to the conclusion that an open source mission, especially if we're going to be generating, and I don't want to say generate, but if we're going to be adding this amazing medium for our community to reach out to us and connect with us, so a percentage of the community will be developers, will be people who love our mission, actually people who watch and engage with our content and love us in this type of medium. They're all gonna, it's our community, right? And so a percentage of our community is going to be developers.
Yeah.
So we should foster our community. And I don't know.
I can see that, and I love that.
We can't expect everybody in our community to like have to quit our jobs like us and to do this like that's ridiculous. No.
As I said, if there is one thing that you're passionate about, if there is one feature that you would want for yourself because you are a user and you're like, oh my god, I really wish Socra did this better, or Socra had this feature or had this thing, and all you have to do is that, you know,
help us build it.
There is no how can I say?
There's no barrier.
Expectations, but there's no expectations.
There's no barrier, no nothing.
No pressure. It's the same way we work with our testers, and I mean, I love our testers.
Testers.
Let's just say with
and
our
I think
testers.
Our testers or our alpha testers always gets this kind of like closed off connotation, but our testers are people in our community that really believe in what we're building.
They're our first believers. They're the people who reached out to us and they said something like, oh, I like this platform or something, but they took the initiative to reach out to us, and that's how we identified them. And I was like, hey, do you want to be a tester? Like, all you have to do is just test and let us know what you think.
You get free reins of the platform, and
but
you just let us know what you think.
It's like, it's crazy to think that there's people out there who like value this enough to want to spend their time
I don't think it's
testing
crazy. I don't think it's crazy. I think this is just what happens when you get eyeballs on something. When you get eyeballs on something, you might find one person in the crowd who really connects, believes in you, and connects with your mission. And that's fine. Everybody else in the crowd will connect with their own thing. That's great. That doesn't mean you failed as a as a company or as a mission. It just means that you're connecting with the people that really resonate with what you're offering and what you are contributing to the world. Because that's really the whole point, is like, we're doing this to help people. We recognize that we've had, like, I in particular, I've had it great my whole life. It's been great. Nice upper middle class upbringing. I was lucky enough to be born with a great brain, and that helped me get through everything. No problem. I never really had to work too much, but I realized that working was great, and it's better if you work for a mission. So
it's fulfilling.
It's extremely fulfilling. I would say that it's the most fulfilling work you could possibly do, is if you're working and helping a mission that you really believe in.
That you believe. It's the change you want to see in the world. Like, this is what I want to see in this planet that I live in.
Right.
In this life. What if this is the only life I got to experience, but I have the chance to impact many other people's life and make their lives better? Like, people that I will never get to meet. And
maybe you will.
And maybe I will. And, that's when it gets so interesting.
Mm-hmm. I think that's something beautiful about the internet. Yeah, the internet's got a lot of flaws, and it's got a lot of hate, and people take advantage of the internet to take advantage of your eyeballs talking about you, big social media companies. But it allows you to connect to people who resonate with whatever your ideas are in the world.
Yeah.
And that's super powerful. Before the internet, none of this is possible. And now you'll be able to have...
Oh. The AI is like, I want to check
AI said, I'm confused.
I want to check what is going on out there.
Yeah.
Okay, sir, we are just going to move according to where you want to go.
No,
feels like a dog. Doesn't he feel like a dog right now?
Oh, our community feels like a dog.
This camera feels like a dog.
It should feel like someone that you're talking to. That's the point.
No, to me, it feels like a dog. Almost.
We could put a face, like, we could print a picture of one of our community members' face. You know, each time we do this, and then we could have it there, and it would be like, we are talking to you, community member. We are. It'd make it feel like you're talking to the person.
No, I feel like when I say it feels like a dog, I mean the sense of like, I know it's there. I know that it's there, and I know that I gotta watch it. Like I feel responsibility over it because like the same way we are responsible for Hunter. We are doing the podcast and talking, and then Hunter.
It's not a podcast.
Yes, this thing, and then we were talking, and it's not a podcast. What is it?
Well, podcast didn't have a name until everybody started doing it, and then it developed a name, and then that's how everybody did it. You know. And that's why it's like the people who, like, iPhone didn't have a name before Apple came and built it and named it. So
let's think of a name.
If this is a brand new medium of creating content for people that resonate with you, then so be it. It's not Twitch streaming. Twitch streaming is always in a fixed location. This is different. Should we talk about why we're doing this podcast?
No.
Thing?
That's boring.
Whatever the idea
boring.
is.
Let's just do it. It's like, what better way than just show it?
Yeah.
It's like, right?
Right.
Yeah. But going back to the dog.
The dog.
So, I mean, he didn't go very far away. We called him. He came right in. But like, you got that instinct of like, hey, I have responsibility. If this dog gets in trouble, I have to be there for him, and I have to, you know what I mean? And I feel the same way about this camera right now, like the way that it kind of failed. And I'm like, oh my God, gotta
I'm so
watch,
sorry.
because sometimes I forget it's there and I'm like just talking to you and then it does something,
Yeah.
on its own. And then it also feels like it's there. But I like forgetting. I think that's how we have our best ideas. That's how we have our best conversations, and
Yeah.
like what we just talked about, for example. Like I mean, I'm sure that this is a thought that has gone through our minds, like open sourcing it, but for different reasons. And now we found the reason. Now we found
the reason.
Now
it's like
we
because Mike is the bottleneck, and we
have so much that we want to do, and we want people to.
we don't want me to be the reason why we don't get to build things that help our community members.
Let people build their own versions of socra.
No, when you think about it, I mean that we'll explore that one in a second, but if I'm the bottleneck, then I'm the reason why one of our community members' ideas won't get implemented, because we're constantly assessing priorities, and we're constantly assessing like which priority is going to be the best, and we're constantly like, I can only execute one task at a time. So if we open source and we allow our community members, people who want to contribute ideas to our platform, to do so, that's awesome. That's amazing. Now, people who wouldn't have had their ideas implemented on our platform will get to do so. This might be the first. Well, I'm sure I'll misstep if I do this, because there are probably others, but the first truly open source grassroots platform. There are all sorts of open source. The closest one that I could think of might be Sentry. I'll get into that in a sec, but typically, when you think of open source for the world, or open sourcing anything, think of open sourcing code. And what it means to open source code is that, if you're a company, you're building, some project that people use themselves that they find useful, and so they want to contribute to it a little bit. But it's always in a developer sense. And it's always like, oh, I'm contributing to this library because I use some parts of the library that these people are building. But it's not, I want to contribute to this platform because this is a platform that I use. It's always, I want to contribute to this library.
I guess a lot of
the set of functionalities that I derive some meaning from.
Right.
Now, I guess when you think about it, a platform is a set of functionalities that people derive meaning from. And we have a hell of a good meaning with this platform. So.
Right. So going back to Sentry, what is
Sentry? It's a bug tracking platform for developers.
We use it. That's why I'm interested in knowing, because
we use it, but every developer uses it. Like every developer uses Sentry for bug tracking in their application. Like if you have a platform or an application, like it's very complicated. It's hundreds of thousands or millions of lines of code. People can't conceptualize millions, but imagine it takes you a couple seconds or a second to do a million or a line of code, or maybe 5 seconds, maybe 10 seconds, maybe a minute to do a line of code. And now imagine like a million of those. It's crazy. It'd literally be like a team of developers building something all the time for a while. And then you can conceptualize how much a million lines of code is. But when you have that much code, that much functionality built into something, you end up with things going wrong. You can think of like your baby misbehaving, like the camera misbehaved, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of a bug.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a bug, right? Because it messed up the object detection, and
I'm sure
it went into some sort of error state where like it went off and it went down, and it was like, that's an error. So Sentry, what happens is when that error occurs, Sentry captures the whole environment, everything that happened leading up to it, and everything that happened right after it. So
that you could look at it later. It's like, oh, here was the failure scenario that occurred. And now with Sentry, I can see in a nice, awesome dashboard, dashboard, here's how that bug happened. Here's why it happened. Helps you trace the bug. Helps you figure out why it happened so that you can implement a fix and then mark it as fixed in Sentry. Okay, so that's Sentry. But why would they open source that? That would be a great closed source product. Why would they want developers developing that? Why? What's the point? You know?
Right,
I could
because
just get,
there is so many
I could just get
cases
VC money and I could build a product just like that. And people have, but it wouldn't be as successful as Sentry is successful now. So why Sentry? Why did they make it open source? And why is it the #1 bug tracking platform in the world? In other words, if I'm a developer, I can just clone a Sentry's code and I can stand it up in my own thing with their, of course, abiding by their licensing and all of that, and I can modify things and I can make it work how I want to for me, and that's great, and they encourage that. It's awesome. And then now I have my own version of Sentry that works for me, but why is Sentry, the entity, still the world's #1 bug tracking platform? Why do you think?
I would have to have a deeper understanding of how does the developer contribute back to the product. Because if the developer contributes back to the product, then I see why. I understand why.
Wrong.
It doesn't.
Wrong. It's because you as a developer, you want to know why your code broke. You want to know why your code broke. And if there's not a tool that can understand why your code broke, you want to use a tool that you can contribute to and improve that tool.
Oh.
So that it can catch that bug for everybody else moving forward. So that's why Sentry, I think, in my opinion, I can't speak for Sentry because I don't know any of them, but maybe this is the best Sentry out of all time, of why a platform like Sentry would be open source. It's because developers, they know of Sentry because of its mission.
Mm-hmm.
They use Sentry, or maybe they don't use Sentry and they start using Sentry, but they realize that it's not catching some edge case, or maybe it's not doing it in a particular language, or maybe it's not doing it in a particular environment. And they say, well, Sentry's amazing, but what if I could extend it a little bit for my capabilities? What if I could just do it a little bit more? So that's what the developer does. They take Sentry, take the existing thing, it's open source, and they say, hey, I'm going to create what's called a pull request. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, hey, Sentry, this would be like, you could imagine this in the virtual forum. Hey, Sentry, I have an idea for something that I would love to get implemented on your platform, your code base, whatever you call it. I have an idea that I want to get implemented. So they go to Sentry, you open a pull request and say, hey, I have an idea. I want it to do X. Or when this happens, I would like the behavior to be like this because of a reason that I have here. So you open a pull request for your idea to get implemented. And then if you're an open source member, then other people can contribute to that pull request, or you can do it yourself. But you open that pull request and you say, hey, I'm going to create the code. I'm going to take Sentry. I'm going to add the code in there that will do the thing that I want. And that's going to be the pull request. And then when everybody says, okay, let's say I'm the maintainers of Sentry, a big team, maybe big, small team, whatever. Doesn't really matter. But Sentry says, I see you've opened this pull request, this issue that we have. And the maintainers go and they say, does this fit with our mission?
Yeah.
Is this good code? Is this bad code? Is this kind of where we want to go? Generally, if it's adding functionality, they're always going to say yes. They're always going to say yes. This is a great addition. So if the maintainers say, this is a great addition to our code base, well, then they merge in that pull request. They merge in that code into the main branch of Sentry. Branches are a thing in Git, but that's a different topic. But so they merge it all into the main thing that is Sentry, and they say, okay, Sentry now includes this feature. So they've merged this pull request. You've started from idea all the way to merging in to Sentry, and now Sentry has your capability.
I love that. So
If Sentry were closed source, Sentry would be what it is. They would take a forum. They would basically say, I would love it if Sentry version 1, the next version of Sentry, had an extra feature. So you say, hey, in like their support, you'd say, hey, how can I add this thing? Or you go in their Discord channel and you say, I would love to add this thing. And then they say, okay, we'll prioritize it, maybe, never. And then maybe it gets implemented. So if it's closed source, that's the process. If the developers internally, if it makes it to the developers internally, then they'll assess whether it's of importance and then they'll assign it. But odds are, if they're developers internally, they're being paid to do something else. So they're not being paid to add that whatever little feature that you had contributed. So if they're being paid for something else, then the likelihood that you're going to get that feature is pretty remote. Unless the developers, it's just like you and me.
They're so huge that
Right.
it's
a big entity, so you don't. Odds are that request is just going to get lost in time, which means that community member is ultimately disappointed because they don't get their feature implemented. So, I guess taking it from start to finish with the Sentry example, this is why Sentry is open source, I think. I don't know. But this is why it's the number 1 bug tracking platform in the world, is because it's open source. Now, it's specifically relevant for developers, because developers are the ones that create pull requests, and the developers are the ones that can create the code and merge it in and whatever. And so it's like a network effect, but for developers specifically. So there's no way that a closed source solution could beat Sentry. There's no way. Now you see why, if it's a...
Now I see why Google is afraid of open source AI.
No, they have all sorts of open source, and I think it's important to acknowledge companies when we talk about companies on this thing. We've got to take the full context. You can't just say Google is this closed source entity, whatever, because they have tons of open source things. But again, it goes back to
like what?
Like what? Oh gosh, I mean, what have? God, is Android open source? It's partially open source. Android would be a good one. They've got oh god, the big platform that like Visual Studio Code is implemented in. Slack is implemented in. Forgetting the name right now, but it's essentially a platform that allows.
Oh, they got Material UI.
Material UI was originated.
Yeah,
it's the Material Design Standard originated by
I
Google.
use Material UI. Material UI is awesome. Thank you, Google.
But there's applications like Slack which use the it's not React Native, Flutter. I think it's Flutter. Yeah, Flutter. But anyways, it doesn't really matter the name, but they built this open source thing and they made it open source to people. So there's these massive things. And now you've got companies like Slack which depend on it for their product.
Yeah.
So yeah, Google's got all sorts of open source things. They're super powerful, but they only open source things that aren't their competitive advantage.
That makes sense.
If they can't control the thing, then it can't possibly be their competitive advantage.
Yeah. That makes sense.
If they can't contain it, then there is no like, you think of a moat. A moat is literally stopping one thing from going to another thing, which is your competitive advantage. So if you just open source, you in theory have no competitive advantage, but it's that no competitive advantage that gives you the strongest platform, the strongest brand, the strongest whatever, because you can resonate with everybody. Everybody can look at the code. It's what made Twitter. People resonated with the Twitter algorithm so much more.
They're open sourcing the backend.
They open sourced the algorithm,
And
which was super huge. That you could look at the Twitter algorithm, the recommendation engine, and you could say, this is how, this is how the things are being shown on my feed. This is why.
I think that another amazing, how can I say, that is another amazing point to open source, especially if you're going to do something that could potentially, that will impact somebody's life.
Mm-hmm.
And if they care to understand how it works, and they care to understand exactly what it's doing, they can go and check it.
They can go and check it.
They can
make it better if they want.
They can make it better. Yeah, they can make their own version of it.
Yeah.
It's because this whole time we have been talking about like how we have everything that we put on the main socra, our socra is our responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we think through everything so much, like Dr. Doubter.
Or
I know.
open sourcing. It's like, yeah, you lose some competitive advantage, but you build the strongest brand and you build the most trusted brand.
The most trusted, because
some people don't trust Apple because they don't know what's going on inside. Now, pretty much everybody that I knew in there. I mean, it's hard to say. I'm sure there's some bad apples there, but in these big companies, people are good people, almost exclusively. Yes, they're told what to do, and maybe they're working on a weird project or whatever. People are good people. They know right from wrong. It's very hard to convince. Well, it's not impossible, but it's more difficult. It's more difficult to convince a majority of people to do something unethical.
Yeah.
When they know it's unethical. Granted, you can coax people using progressively larger unethical things to end up being completely unethical and doing some sort of crime.
Or they can do a security clearance type of deal.
Yeah. But yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I can.
But you can see why they would want to do a security clearance, because they want to vet every little part of you. So I guess the long story short is, if a company is really caring about profits, they're caring about their IP, and they don't want somebody else to use their IP or their code, then they'll be closed source, and that's totally fine. It will lead to people distrusting that platform or being upset that platform isn't what it should be or isn't what that customer wants it to be. It'll make it the most profitable thing, but on the other end, you'll have less of a community feel, and people will feel like that they don't have a voice. Like, you may feel like if you're trying to go on customer support for one of these big tech corporations, and you're like, hey, I have a suggestion for something, like an honest suggestion about this product, it's going to be hard to get it in front of the right eyes. So
I'm getting cold.
Yeah, you're getting cold?
Let's start the grill, and I'll get out. And I'm happy for it.
Oh, yeah. And then it just did that. So,
you did what?
Should we take a break or just go with it?
No.
Okay, bathroom break over. Bathroom break's over. Let me get this correct. So I went to go back into the apartment, and actually let me not use tracking mode for this one. But I went back into the apartment, and you guys met Hunter. Actually, no. Let's use tracking mode.
They should have done that. I'm not a grill. I cook. I love cooking, but grilling, because I never grill, because you always grill everything.
Yeah.
Not my thing.
Yeah. So I went back into the apartment, and just like dogs do, as soon as I open the door, there's Hunter,
He's so excited and he's so happy to see me. Just like dogs are, you know?
Like first time.
Like it's the first
You
time.
just came
Like it's the first time.
after years, and it's the first time this has ever happened.
Yep.
It always feels like the first time.
Yep. So he,
To him.
Hunter knows me and he knows me well by my perception.
Mm-hmm.
But to Hunter, he also knows me subconsciously. He knows how I am, etc., etc. But our perceptions of time and memory are different. So humans are able to learn quite a lot about ourselves and the environment, and communicate that with other human beings with language. And we built all these crazy things because we have this great memory, this great recall. Our perception of time is very straightforward, and we can remember things. If things feel unique, then we act, we know that they're unique. If we've experienced them before, then, it becomes normal and blah, blah, blah. So we would never behave like how a dog behaves when we've left for 5 seconds. So here's the scene is I open the door and I'm like, Hunter's so happy to see me. I say, hey Hunter, how's it going? And I did something I don't normally do, which is I went and just gave him a hug immediately. Normally I wait and I'm like, oh hey buddy.
You know what?
Right.
So long story short, we wait because when he was young, he used to pee.
He's so excited.
If you acknowledged him or if you gave him any pets, he would just pee. So we got used to ignore him when we first get home. Ignore him. Although I don't think he pees anymore. He hasn't done that in months.
He didn't pee.
Years.
He didn't pee.
Not years, months. But
but I greeted him differently than I would normally greet him.
Yeah.
And I greeted him how it's hard to describe it. Normally you're like friendly and you're like, oh hey dog, blah blah blah. But this time I was trying to go quick, and so I basically hugged him from behind.
Oh no!
And I was like, oh Humpty.
He got scared.
And so what happened was, Hunter is like, wow, this is the first time I'm meeting this person. Yeah, with a little bit of memory because he knows some things. But I just hugged him. And because Hunter's behaving like, oh, this is the first time in a long time I've seen this person. He's like, oh wow. Mike's different. Maybe Mike's not family.
Maybe
he's different.
Did he bark at you?
No. So he ended up he started behaving like he didn't know me, which was the thing. So I would be like, hey Hunter, and he was kind of suspicious of me, when I was gonna pet him, and he was a little suspicious. He was like, huh, do I know you? Do I really know you? And it's because of how I greeted him.
Yeah.
How interesting is that? So dogs, their memory is not as
But why did you decide to hug him today? Why did you decide to? I
was just going quick. I went in. I knew I only had a second, so I wanted to express the most amount of love that I could in such a short amount of time to a dog. So I just hugged him.
Because we always hug him and express love, but whenever we arrive at home, we ignore him because he will pee himself.
Yep. So he thought, wow, maybe I don't know this guy. This is weird. But the whole point of this story is that dogs' perception of reality and time is so much different than ours, because in his eyes, it's like he hasn't seen me in years. It's like he just doesn't have as much memory around situations and his experiences to know that he knows me really, really, really well.
Yeah.
So I thought it was kind of interesting, but I guess if you ever want to experience a different, just introspect, just look at your dog. Look at what they're doing and try to
Maybe
empathize.
you'll know when you're different.
Try to empathize with them, and you'll see them behaving like it's just that their memory is poor. they love you, but their memory is just a little poor. That's why they go and bark at the other dogs, and that's why they do that. That's why they do the bad things when they know they shouldn't. It's because their memory is poor and they're impulsive.
Yeah.
So that was a cool topic. What's next?
I don't think that's the thing. It's like, if assuming I don't want to do this thing,
We can't force it.
not just forcing it, but I don't want to do it and have it change the way I am, have it change my life. I want to do things as I normally do, and just share ideas, because I think that this is the best way to share ideas. You're sharing them right at inception. And I mean, right now, yes, I guess we're talking because I guess we always feed on each other.
Yeah.
We do this thing, and I guess we can just skip here and talk forever.
Yeah.
And just talk forever.
Well,
but there are moments that we're just quiet and doing things.
You gotta think about people conversing like it's an act in a play. It's a constant play that has ups, downs, sideways. It's got detours. It's got all sorts of things. But when the play is developing, when the story is developing, builds anticipation. You start talking about something interesting, more and more interesting, until you get to the very conclusion, what you're trying to bring the audience to. And in that moment, you have this full realization. Everybody in the audience knows exactly what you're talking about. The play has climaxed. That's why they call it the climax. And then you have falling actions, which are things that are like, things that happen after the climax. So realizations that you have, resolutions that are kind of like taking place, things like that, until the end, which I think is the denouement, which is the final resting place. It's like the conclusion of the story, the thing that the author or the storyteller wanted you to know about the story. So with the story, you go basically from nothing to, what's the word? It's the word for when they're giving the context about the thing. So in my story, it's the context about Hunter and his behavior and how dogs are and where we are,
the
things
plot?
like that.
No, not the plot.
No, it's everything that the audience member needs to understand the story or to start picking up the story. It's all of the details that the audience member needs to understand the story eventually.
Yeah. I follow you.
Okay.
But I don't know the word for that either. But I follow.
Probably sit for a minute. Exposition. There you go. So exposition. So there's exposition. It's basically setting of the story, context, any little details you might want to know. And then you go into kind of rising action. So maybe I skipped a step, but rising action is basically you're building up plot details. You're building up things that are relevant to the story. You're taking the audience member from the state that is, which is the exposition. Everything's at rest. Everything is how it is. You're taking the audience member from that up to a climax. So you can't just go to the climax because it won't be fun. Nobody likes that. They won't get it. Whatever. So you've got to slowly build up to it, and you've got to slowly expose more about the story, slowly expose more about whatever it is, until you get to the full realization, the full serotonin and dopamine splurge of what the thing is. And then you're left with kind of these waning moments, that's why the story, blah, 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 blah. And when you think about it, kind of follows your brain with neuroplasticity. it kind of follows your brain in a neuroplastic state as well. You go from a resting state, which is like nothing, to slowly building, slowly building, slowly building, until you have this climax, this learning, this epitome, this like thing that happens where you're in the most plastic state, where you're able to understand the plot in a full sense, and then you tail off and you're left with the message. So
You're left with the message.
The storytelling isn't just the way to tell an efficient story, it's also the most efficient way to transmit a lasting message to somebody else and have it stick in their brain. And you can back that up with all sorts of sciencey terms like neuroplasticity and dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin. Like oxytocin, you get the happy feeling when the thing is done, this like sense of well-being that people get when right after they have sex, you have this huge amount of oxytocin. And it's like, wow, I'm fully happy and everything is right in the world. I have this lasting resolution, whatever. But it always fades.
Yeah.
Because you have to set the setting for the next story that's going to take place. So you can think of like storytelling as you're exposing this underlying thing about how human brains learn. And good stories are able to expose that thing about your brain a little better, until you can transmit a huge amount of message and context and setting and whatever to the audience member in a 3-hour time block and have them remember so much stuff, or a 2-hour time block. It's the most efficient way to transmit a message and have it stick for the audience member.
Tell you a story.
If I just tell you, oh, the dog does this because of this and this and that and that, that's kind of stupid and it's not going to stick. It does tell you all of the facts that you needed to know, but you're going to forget it tomorrow. Because I didn't follow the thing that your brain needed in order for that story to stick.
And if you think deep down, that's how we learn to communicate. That's how we communicate. I mean, that's how a natural conversation always goes. Yeah.
Right.
It's like, I was in this setting and this thing happened. End of story.
No. Nobody's gonna remember nobody's gonna care about your
Nobody's
story.
gonna care about the story. Yeah.
Unless you follow the process.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why a long-form discussion at a surface level would be a terrible idea, because it doesn't have one of these story arcs on the surface level.
Yeah.
But you go just a little deeper and you realize, well, over the course of 2, 3, 4 hours, long-form discussions have many different arcs that happen. So, and this is something beautiful, is you're able to transmit so many different stories in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
So many different messages in such a short amount of time. But you've got to follow this conversational dialogue that people learn by. Otherwise, you can't. People talk about connecting with the audience member. It's not so much connecting with the audience member. It's more your brain works on these terms. So I want to transmit a message that is most efficient for your brain to understand.
That makes sense.
That's why they don't give away the plot right at the beginning. That's why people hate it when you give away the result of the story. I don't think it's going to track you and me.
No, it's tracking you right now. You are the star. But yeah. I love learning from you. That's one of my favorite things ever.
Why do you call it learning from me? We're exposing this together.
Yeah.
I'm doing most of the talking, but like, if I don't have your connection and your question, like subtle questions here and there,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't tell that you're engaged, then how else am I supposed to transmit the message?
Right. And I feel like a thing of, I was going to say, a consequence of being so connected with each other, because we are literally together always, and we do everything together,
Mm-hmm.
and we are so connected like one, is that most of the times I don't even have to ask certain questions. Just by my body language, you can see the points that I have questions, if that makes sense.
Mm.
You know?
What's the gesture thing that we were talking about last time? Maybe you should talk about that. This gesture thing that people pick up on, or you could talk about the idea that your face is.
I mean, everybody has different, like, very unique gestures that are very unique to that person. And usually you will pick it up by spending a lot of time with that person. That's when you pick up on those things. But everybody has those things, you know?
Everybody has those things.
That's how you express yourself to the world. That's how...
Yep.
Everybody has, even though they might not realize they have them. Like, you didn't realize you had that one until I pointed out to you.
Just for everybody who's listening, they've probably seen it 15 times already or 100 times in this thing. But when I am trying to take somebody from where they are, and I want to transmit my message, and I want to basically transmit something that I think I know, or something that I would like them to know, I do certain things with my body language. So I'm trying to take them from where they are to where I want them to be with some topic or some whatever. And the way that I do that is I have this gesture that I do. So it's like I'm grabbing onto where the thing is, and I've got a hold of reality, right? This is the reality. And subconsciously, I know I'm trying to grab that reality out there, but I can't just like grab it and like pull it in right in front of you. And so what do? I adjust my body language to subtly like grab this thing. And so it's like, here's where we are. And then I'm like, I lead you to the point that I want. And then I say, and then grab the thing and I pull it in. So it's a subtle, like, two-step thing that I do.
It's not just that. It's your entire body language. It's your knees going up, like your knees propelling up and down.
Everything.
It's the entire thing. And it's so unique to you that, like, having spent so much time together and seeing this thing over and over and over, if you were inside of somebody else's body, like somebody that I have never seen in my life or whatever, like completely different from you, and that person did that gesture, like, I would know it's you. Like, it's almost like, you know, your mind, how you express yourself through your body and through, it's, you know, looking at each other beyond our bodies, but our bodies are also, it's our means of expression to the world.
Another way to put it is, interoception is the things that you feel and know about yourself. It's like, if, as a quick example, is I could say, okay, close your eyes and focus on your left elbow. Focus all of your attention on your left elbow, and then move that attention from your left elbow up to your shoulder, and then move it from your shoulder into your spine, or into the vertebrae where your shoulder connects to your spine, and then move it up to your brain, up to the back of your scalp, through to your eyes, and then open your eyes. That's called an interoception. So it's where you are literally feeling different parts of your body and your brain, but you're not actually doing anything. You're just doing it all in your brain. Right. That's interocepting. You can get a lot of knowledge from interocepting, as you just felt.
Yeah.
But when you're observing something, you might guess what the name for that is. It's exteroception. So it's, I'm looking at my environment, okay? This is how the environment is. So this process that we're kind of describing is when you're bringing the environment into yourself, or you're taking part of yourself and spewing it into your environment. It's this connection between interoception and exteroception, where you're trying to transmit yourself, a part of yourself, a small part of yourself, a story, to somebody else. These are the behaviors and subconscious things that we do that we would never realize, but it's our patterns of behavior. It's the things that make up our personality over time, and it's the things that make us us. It's like you said, it's the thing that makes you able to tell me apart from somebody else just by some behavior that I do.
Yeah.
And that's the story arc. And now we learned interoception versus exteroception.
Actually, when I was doing the interoception thing,
You felt it.
no, for a second, I remembered that I had forgotten about my hip, and that was so great. And I was like, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to forget about it for a second.
Now, now you have a tool that you can use anytime to
right.
focus deeply on the thing, focus specifically on the thing, and you can walk through it yourself, but you effectively focus on that particular part of your body, and then you can focus on the pain level. You can focus on forcing the pain level lower in your brain.
So I'll just give some background for whoever is listening about the hip. But I do a lot of stairs, and for pretty much the past year, I have been climbing stairs every day, and I would do. I mean, the lowest ever I would ever go is 20 minutes warm up for my workout, but sometimes I would do like 40 minutes. You know, it was very common that I was doing like 200 floors. And you too, you do 300 floors.
Oh my God. Yeah. We have a thing where it's like, if we can do 300 floors on Saturday, then we'll reward ourselves with some really disgusting, amazingly unhealthy fried chicken. It's amazing. If you're in Austin, go to Spicy Boys. It's the best place ever.
It's amazing.
You know, but like
it's the best fried chicken I've ever had.
Fried chicken, unbelievably unhealthy, but 300 flights of stairs takes like a couple hours to do. It's super.
Hours?
Oh, you never looked at your watch while you're doing it?
No. What?
It takes like 2 hours to do that.
Oh my God! I think that this is wow.
Oh yeah, when you're interocepting, your perception of time changes too. So you may have noticed that when you're on the stairs or you're doing some cardio thing, you get really inside yourself. You're thinking about yourself. You're thinking about things that are going on in your life. You're resolving things. You're effectively meditating in motion.
That's what I love about it.
Your perception of time is fully different than in just a normal thing, because your brain is in a different state too.
Yeah.
So Andrew Huberman, you guys may know him, but he's Stanford neuroscience PhD. He's a researcher. He's unbelievably smart too.
Great guy to listen to his podcast.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff like interoception versus exteroception, it's coming from his podcast. But what was I about to say?
Andrew Huberman, what?
But
what about Huberman?
What was the point I was trying to say?
You were talking about interoception?
The sentence right before interoception. Or right before I introduced Andrew Huberman. Oh, your perception of time. Yeah. So he has, I think he's coined the term, but maybe it's out there. I don't know. But he calls it non-sleep deep rest, NSDR, and they're doing studies about it, where it's effectively putting your brain in a lower resting state, kind of like a lower than resting state. of consciousness where you are closing your eyes. You're doing these what does he call that? Some type of yoga specifically, but anyways, you're doing these different focusing things on your body, interocepting, and it puts your brain in a lower conscious level, closer to sleep, which is actually where a lot of neuroplasticity happens. So if you put yourself in this state several times per day, then the things that you had just learned or the things that you had done, like let's say you just did a bout of work, you just worked for 90 minutes or so, and you put yourself in one of these states, you're more likely to learn the thing that you were just doing. You're more likely for it to stick, because that is when neuroplasticity happens, is when you're in non-sleep deep rest or in actual sleep.
Right. And I think that's what working out, like exercising, working out, going to the sauna, that's what it does to us.
Puts you in a kind of a meditative state, right?
I mean, the sauna forces me into a meditative state after I am there for like 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. By the way, I did the sauna for a very long time.
Oh yeah, she's got a superpower.
Sauna. But after that 30 minutes, I feel like I'm not thinking about anything because I don't want to think about anything. That's how I get to enjoy and just existing there and enjoy the heat. And not think about it. Because it's like I enjoy, but I know that eventually you get uncomfortable, but I just want to
enjoy it because you're meditating.
I don't want to do anything. I don't even know if enjoying is the right word, because I'm not really enjoying either. I'm just there, and I don't want to think either because I want to conserve my energy and
yeah, you're putting yourself in a meditative state, basically. You're putting yourself in this non-sleep deep rest state. You'll notice that resolutions that you come to in this state, things that you resolve, things that you think about, will stick more. They'll stick more than you just walking down the street and thinking about the same thing. It's because your brain is in a more plastic state. Because these concepts are more able to sink in. I think, if you were to think about it, this is probably also why the movie theater is super dark. The only thing that you're hearing,
comfortable, like
super comfy. Mm-hmm. The best movie theaters are super comfy, but they're putting you in this trance-like state to transmit this message to you, so that you'll remember it more.
Right.
And maybe they knew about it while they're doing it. Maybe they've just discovered it with a whole bunch of trial and error over a bunch of years of like market research about, people like comfier chairs, people like whatever,
But
they,
at the end of the day,
they uncover some fundamental truth about how people transmit messages
and learn.
Okay, so these kebabs are done.
Oh.
Ah, yes. So that's how we learn.
Yeah.
And
if we just suddenly disconnect for some reason, it's not going to be for some reason, it's going to be for a very specific reason, our battery is going to die. So we have less than 10%.
What are we at?
Less than 10. You know how iPhone tells you when you're less than 10? So we are below 10.
I do. So should we wrap it up or should we change phones?
No, it's okay. I mean, if it disconnects, and that's it. We can just... I don't think there's a wrap up. Like, wrap up what?
Well, it's like, what a great discussion about stuff.
I don't know. Like, it's like...
I don't know. Just like how the stories have a good resolution at the end, it's important to have that closure, that final message, that whatever. So if I'm in the audience of this message that we are broadcasting, that we are wanting people to I guess take away from it, it's not good to leave it hanging. You know? So it's good if we want them to come back for more, and like, it's good for a YouTube channel, it's good for clickbait, it's good for that. but
I see.
It's not the best for
Yeah.
storytelling.
So let's wrap up.
We shall wrap it up.
We can wrap it up with what?
What's our message? So we've got
what's
our message. We've got.
We talked about so many
God,
things.
we talked about why
talked-
doubt is such a powerful tool for your goals. Doubt is incredibly powerful, but it's a very important tool
There's much more.
that we should be very cautious of.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about how we build features at Socra. We talked about how we want our platform to be built in a community-driven way. We talked about...
They're gonna start putting these turkey sausages up.
I mean, we're
up
wrapping
there.
up. It's all right. We talked about how we want our community to be built. We talked about making Socra open source, and I think we're pretty well in agreement that if it's not by the time this podcast is up, it will be shortly after that we will most likely make all or portions of Socra open source. I think it's super important. Maybe we'll discuss it on the next one of these, and we'll find some great counter arguments as to why not.
Right.
But we discussed why it's so important for open source to exist, or at least have a community-like feel for open source, so that people can collaborate and get their ideas into a product, into an idea, into a mission. Why it's so important for that. We also talked about Hunter. Of course.
We always talk about Hunter.
We talked about how dogs' perception of time is different. And we talked about how we can make our perception of time different. We talked about how stories work, how your brain is put in a very plastic state at the movies, and why. How you can focus on pain and remove it. And hopefully that makes you a little bit better thing. People are probably going to ask, Mike, how did you learn these things? It's just by doing. You do, you listen, you try to resonate with something, rinse and repeat. Your brain wants to learn. Your brain really wants to learn. Give it the food that it needs. So we'll be back in the next one, I guess.
I'm so happy that I have you to do this wrap up because you did it so beautifully. Thank you. That was super nice. And
Thank
you did it, yeah.
Thank you.
Did a great job at remembering. If there is one thing about Mike that he's very good at, it's memory. His memory is just another level memory.
But I think that's the thing, is it's a memory. I know exactly how many, like, in our code repo, I know exactly where to look for everything. Because I built it, and because my memory is structured that way. I can recall files and thousands of files that we've created for code. And I think I lack some probably emotions that other people probably have. But I'm so analytical that I can make up for it by but emotions I feel with you.
I was gonna say, I
100%
don't
real.
think, yeah. Why you just,
Yeah.
I love you.
I love you so
I
much.
know you love me so much.